Here's the thing for me that ultimately separated this in this 3. Now, if Ohio State wins it, man, it would not shock me in the slightest. I don't know what they're going to look like offensively. It's cool that you have Marvin Harrison Jr. out there. I know that you got a good running back and good running back core and offensive line. My ultimate question would be, does anybody know what Brian Hartline's going to do on 3rd and 7?
Right. I mean, that's a massive question mark, and I think it goes in line with
massive question mark, Joe. I'm going to be real with you. If you look at them up front, if you want to play the all-22 copy, I will argue with Jesus himself if it takes it. You cannot convince me on the all-22 copy that I watched on Sunday that offense and defensive line is good enough. They're not.
Right. There's just so many issues across the board for me with Ohio State and why I think that they're going to finish 3rd. You brought up Brian Hartline, which I'm actually optimistic about. I think that Brian Hartline is going to work out, and he's a great coach, and he's ready to take that next step. So I'm not sitting here knocking them for having a guy who, if he ends up calling the plays, he does a good and effective job. I don't know if we could trust Kyle McCord. I also at one point heard the possibility that he might not even be the starter. So I still don't know for certain how that quarterback spot's going to deal with. But you just mentioned there the key thing here. Compared to Michigan and Penn State, who Michigan's returning really good offensive linemen, especially Zach Zinter. Penn State's returning most of their offensive line, especially Olu Fashanu, who will be a top 3 pick in next year's draft. But for Ohio State, they just lost Luke Whippler, their center. They just lost Paris Johnson, who was one of the best offensive linemen in the country. And they just lost DeJuan Jones, who was the right tackle. Those are 3 important spots to fix. And we talk about a ton on this show how important offensive line play is. More importantly, it is critical for success in the Big Ten.
Here's the biggest thing that when I made this decision, and look, I see that Elk says that their defensive line is top 10. I vehemently disagree. Here's why. In the 2 big games that they had a season ago, you had multiple teams run all over that defensive line. Georgia in the second half absolutely clobbered Ohio State up front. And then I look at Michigan. Michigan, who's returning damn near their entire offensive line. Joe, they ran for almost 280 yards on the ground. Okay? I don't care that you think that their defensive line is top 10. What did they do against the best teams? Now, Penn State, they moderately did something pretty well. You had Trayvon Henderson not Trayvon Henderson. Why am I thinking of Ohio State? But when I look at Penn State, okay, you had Katron Allen and Nick Singleton. One had 76 yards, the other had 45. So basically, you're still running the football at somewhat of an effective clip when you're the 2 best teams. Now, when I look at them against Georgia, Joe, and I think I sent you – did I send you – I'm pretty sure I sent you when I was watching the game. I don't remember what clip I sent you, but now that I'm thinking about it, I remember us talking about this. Mm-hmm. Here was the biggest thing for me. Georgia had 2 dudes run for over 50 yards in that game. They ran the ball strictly downhill. Here's another thing. I know that Stetson Bennett had negative 18 yards rushing. That goes based off of him getting sacked twice. If you remember in the first half, the problem with that is they even let Stetson Bennett get a little bit loose and score on the ground. Remember in the first the first touchdown, it was a simple waggle left, a simple speed sweep left by your QB sweep, and they could not slow them down. They could not slow it down. The teams that they faced that had the better lines of scrimmage or equal to, they got clapped. And I will go to town with that argument because the film and the stats on this one don't lie. They just don't lie, Joe.
I also have a take I just want to add to here that when I clip this and I post the headline's going to be, will Ohio State struggle in 2023, which 10-3 or not 10-3, 10-2, 9-3 is struggling for them. I'm going to get absolutely eviscerated for this thought. their prized guy on their defensive line, JT Tuimolau, who is a very highly recruited kid,
right,
is being talked up.
I think, wasn't it?
Yes, he's number 44. He is being talked up and projected to be a top 10 pick. Look, I broke down his film. I gave him a grade. I've already projected.
Pick.
I have to say this. He's extremely overrated. I do not think that JT Tuimolau is, and I'm definitely mispronouncing his name. He is not as good as he is being projected. He's fine. He's got some decent strength. He's got some decent traits, but he doesn't get home. He had like 3.5 sacks last year. He is not productive. I have watched enough film of him to know that we're riding off of the hype of the way he played against Penn State, where I think he had like 2 interceptions. He had multiple sacks. He had a crazy game, and I give him credit for that. But I need to see more consistency before I can sit here and say that this guy is going to be a wrecking ball in the Big Ten when he hasn't done it yet. That's for some reason we keep riding on that he's going to play up to that level, and I'm still yet to see it.